Welcome to a very special edition of our monthly pitch event. In partnership with the SoGal Foundation, we're thrilled to be bringing you some of the most exciting emerging startups, all led by female founders. I'm Tara Lukabaugh, Director of Strategic Initiatives at OneValley, and I'll be your host today. None of this would be possible without our event sponsor, Vonage. On behalf of the whole OneValley team, I'd like to thank them for making this event a reality. We'll be hearing more from them later on. Before we kick it off, I want to tell you a little bit about what we do here at OneValley. OneValley is a global entrepreneurship platform that supports entrepreneurs, accelerates startups, and empowers organizations across the globe that foster innovation communities. Over the past 6 years, OneValley has supported hundreds of startups that have raised over $1 billion. Our mission here at OneValley is simple: democratize the resources of Silicon Valley and share them with the global community. We do so through a variety of initiatives, including events like these. Pre-COVID, we were running 80 events a year in person in our various innovation spaces. Today, not only are we running these events virtually, but the online accessibility of them has opened up these opportunities to the world at large, the effects of which you will see today. Now, I'd like to introduce you to Passport, our online innovation platform. As you see, we have over 40,000 members on the Passport platform who access and interact with not only each other, but also dozens of corporate partners, hundreds of investors and mentors, and nearly $1 million in discounted or free technology tools and services. Special for our viewers today, we're offering 25% off a premium Passport membership with the code 25female. So if you're not a member yet, I encourage you to check us out and take advantage of the discount by clicking the banner at the bottom of your screen. In addition to the chance to share their startups and compete for a cash prize, each of our participants will be receiving a free annual membership to Passport through our Female Founder Scholarship Program supported by our partners at Vonage. If you're a founder or know a founder who would like to apply for this scholarship, please fill out the application through the link that has been posted to the chat. Before we get into today's panel, I want to take a moment to hear from our partners. Let's kick it off with a video from the Vonage team.
Communication used to be pretty straightforward. Phone, call, phone. Not anymore. Now, business communication is voice, SMS, chat, chatbots, CRM, real-time, on-the-go, mobile, multi-channel, social media, video, blah, blah. Okay, you get it. It's a lot. That's why your business needs a flexible cloud communications platform. Like, extremely flexible. One with, say, an entire suite of cloud-based capabilities. Unified communications, contact centers, and communications APIs. So basically us. Not to toot our own horn, but we help developers and businesses help their customers and employees all the time. Sometimes with just a couple of lines of code. Take Mitch here. He's on a beautiful mountain, but he wants some shoes. Why? Doesn't matter. What shoes? Who cares? But we connect him anyway with his colleague Sarah, so she can collaborate with him and help find the perfect pair. They can share shoe spreadsheets, chat about shoes, and have shoe-related video calls. All thanks to Vonage's Unified Communications Solution. It's kind of a mouthful, but as long as it helps Mitch get the perfect pair, he doesn't really care what it's called. And then there's Jess. When she's not out mountaineering, skiing, or riding her motorcycle, we help call center reps like her make grumpy grumps like Frank happy. Because with fully integrated CRM, Jess has all the interaction data she needs to make the conversation more personal and productive. That way Frank's call to Jess can be his only call. And then there's Tom, or as his friends call him, Big T. Big T doesn't know it, and nor does he care. But the app that helps him find a car and call his driver was built by developers using our API. He also doesn't care that the developers of his banking app use our API to connect him to a customer service rep. And when Big T's stressed about his cheeseburger intake, he really couldn't care less that the app he uses to have a video consultation with his doctor was built by a developer using our API. So, whether you're a mom and pop or a multinational, we can help you scale seamlessly and securely. And no matter what comes up, at least communication-wise, you'll always be just one call away from getting back on your way. Vonage, the world's most flexible cloud communications platform. For business. Ever.
Hi, everybody. I hope you're enjoying today's event. My name is Philippos, and I'm responsible for the startup program here at Vonage. I'd like to apologize for not being able to join the event live. Unfortunately, due to the time difference, it was very difficult. But I'm looking forward to watching the recording tomorrow. Firstly, I'd like to say a big thank you to the team at OneValley for organizing these initiatives. As we all know, unfortunately, the startup ecosystem is still very male-dominated, and initiatives such as the Female Founder series by OneValley are a great way for promoting equal opportunities for female-led startups. And here at Vonage, we're excited to not only partner and support these initiatives, but we're really looking forward to working directly with a few of the startups pitching today if there's synergies to explore. I strongly believe that all of us are responsible in making the startup ecosystem as diverse as possible. Initiatives like this are just the beginning, so looking forward to working with all of you, and I hope you're enjoying the event.
Thank you again to the whole team over at Vonage. Today's event would not be possible without you, nor without our partners at the SoGal Foundation. Right now, I'd like to welcome Marjorie King, Head of Partnerships at the SoGal Foundation, to share a few words about their organization.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here and so excited for everyone that is pitching. My name is Marjorie, and I'm representing SoGal Foundation, where we are a global organization focused on eliminating inequities to entrepreneurship for women, non-binary, diverse women across the globe. We have 50 chapters, 25 roughly in the US and 25 in 6 continents across the globe. And we focus on eliminating inequities to entrepreneurship and to investing via a number of our programs. So for example, Fempire, we're so excited about. It's our early stage angel investing program that we have rolled out this year and launched with corporate partners like Accenture. We also have our Black Founders Grant and a mentorship program focused on providing early stage non-equity capital to those Black and non-binary founders who have some significant struggles raising initial startup capital in their earliest of stages. So I mentioned chapters, a few of our programs. We're just so excited to support all organizations in the ecosystems who build up not only women, diverse persons. And please go to imsogal.com to sign up for our newsletter to find out about grant opportunities or to share virtual events. We host a number of virtual educational events with our corporate partners. I think last week we hosted an event with Brex. So, and coming up, in April, we have an event with Grasshopper Bank. So I just thank you all so much for having us, and I sending all the warm wishes and luck to all the pitchers this evening.
Thank you so much, Marjorie, for being here with us tonight, and also for all of the amazing work that you guys are doing over at SoGal. And thank you again to our partners for this evening, both Vonage and SoGal. We so appreciate you. Now let's get into our fireside chat. I'd like to welcome OneValley CEO Nikhil Sinha and Diane Flynn of Reboot Excel, who will be sharing her experience as a founder, author, and advocate for workforce diversity and bridging the gender gap in leadership. So Nikhil, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Tara, and welcome everyone to the first of 2 OneValley female founders pitch events. We're delighted to have you all with us today, and we're particularly delighted to have with us Diane Flynn, the co-founder and CEO of Reboot Excel, which designs work cultures that support and promote women and underrepresented groups. Diane consults with Fortune 500 companies on diverse and inclusive cultures. She is also the co-author of The Upside, a book which presents the business case for diverse workplaces and best practices for tapping the potential of women. Diane works with numerous organizations to facilitate workshops on professional presence and impact. She works with individual and women executives and coaches them on maximizing results and finding personal fulfillment. Diane previously served as Chief Marketing Officer of GSV Labs. Some of you would know that as the previous avatar of OneValley. So welcome back, Diane, to your old hunting grounds. Diane has also been a marketing executive at Electronic Arts and a consultant at the Boston Consulting Group. She's spoken on diversity, ageism, and the future of work at numerous venues, including South by Southwest, Stanford University, the Modern Elder Academy, and other places. Diane has a BA in economics from Stanford University and an MBA from Harvard. Diane, welcome to OneValley, and thanks for joining us for this really important event in which we recognize top women entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Nikhil. It's really an honor to be here, and I love seeing so many women's faces in this space. We didn't have this many women when I was at GSV Labs at these events, so congratulations on making this a focus.
Thank you. Dan, I'd really like to start with your own journey and tell us how your career journey, your personal life has led to the co-founding of Reboot and your commitment to empowering women in in the full length of their career journey.
Sure. In many ways, I consider myself an accidental entrepreneur because I simply saw an idea that I personally experienced and decided to do something about it. And I think that's probably how most entrepreneurs start, or a lot of them, is they find something that, bugs them or find a way to make something better for somebody else. My personal journey was I reinvented or rebooted my career about 7 years ago when I joined GSV Labs. And I had come off 16 years raising 3 children. I had done a lot of volunteer work. I sat on some nonprofit boards. And so I kept somewhat active and current, but it wasn't the easiest thing. I spent a lot of time asking people like Tara, how do you do this? How do you do that? Things about social media. I was just a little bit of a dinosaur when it came to today's technologies because it was not as familiar to me. And as I shared my story with other people in my community, mostly moms who had paused their careers, I heard so many people say, I would love to do what you just did, but I have no idea how to do it. I don't feel current with today's technologies. I don't have I'm not connected with a professional network, and I have no confidence. And I heard this over and over, and I thought, I could do something to help these women. And so I approached Marlon, who was in your role at the time, Nikhil, Marlon Evans, wonderful CEO, and said, we have this great training room. Can I just run some classes for women who want to reboot careers? And he was kind of my, special mentor. He said, yes, absolutely. I love the idea. And that was how Reboot was born. It was simply a program. It quickly developed into, we had hundreds of women coming through it, and we got a little airtime on Good Morning America, and it kind of blossomed. And at some point, I decided that this is where my heart and my passion is really helping women. And then it's evolved. I'll talk in a little bit about pivoting, because that's something that's a word every entrepreneur needs to know. But I've certainly pivoted. We still have weekly workshops. I did one this morning for women rebooting careers. But most of the work I do now is around consulting with companies on diversity, women, and underrepresented groups.
As you sort of look back on your career and where you are today, and I know a lot of our entrepreneurs are always looking for guidance and mentorship and influence and someone to show them the way. Talk a little bit about, who are the major influences for you and the role that mentorship or guidance has played in the evolution of your career?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that question, because I truly believe, and we have a whole chapter in our book on mentorship, because men have mentors. That is the truth. Women and people from underrepresented groups often don't. They don't have the same access. They don't even know how to ask for a mentor. So I would consider myself very, very fortunate. In one of my first jobs, which was at BCG, there was only one, well, I was a very junior person. There was one female partner, and she took me under her wing. She spoke up for me in these all male meetings. She helped guide me. And it turns out that woman was Indra Nooyi, who most of you probably know was CEO, very successful CEO of Pepsi for many, many years, just recently stepped down. But, you know, she wrote my business school application to Harvard. She just, I can't tell you how many times I sat in her office and got just great mentorship. So that was my first exposure to somebody who could really help me. And I think it, you know, was largely because I was a woman. I was one of the only women. There were a few other associates, but she, for whatever reason, took me under her wing. So I think I wrote her actually after I started Reboot, just to thank her once again, 25 years later, for what she did to me and how I really hope to pay it forward. I had one other amazing mentor, and that was Bill Campbell. Many of you may know Bill. He has since passed, but I used to walk with him every Sunday when he was going through chemo in his later years. And I did that because I knew Bill a little bit, and I asked his wife, what can I do to help? And she said, well, he needs a walking partner. I said, well, I'll volunteer for that. And I did it once because I didn't want to, you know, take his time. He was a very busy man. And I said, Bill, this was such an honor. I just, you know, love doing this. By the way, he was, if you don't know him, he was the coach to Silicon Valley, to, you know, Google and Steve Jobs. They walked every week, and he's just has an amazing track record. So I couldn't believe he would actually want to walk with me. But he said, why don't we do this every week? And so I was never late. One tip is, if you do get lucky enough to get a special mentor, be sure you're respectful of their time. Come with an agenda. I always, you know, in this case, it was more about him than me. I wasn't really trying to soak him for mentorship, but I certainly did in the process. I was really trying to just be a friend. But anyway, he was always about supporting women. And that was the other point I wanted to make is, this is not just a job for women. It's not just a job for people of color, for LGBTQ. This is a job for every single person everywhere. And this is for white male leaders, you know, creating inclusive cultures, making sure every voice is heard. Bill did more for women than most people, and he was a white man. So I just want to make sure everyone knows that this is a job we can all do.
Thanks, Dan. And I want to remind everyone in the audience, if you have questions for Dan, please write them in the chat. And if we get time at the end, I'll certainly ask those questions. Dan, tell us a bit about Reboot and its programs and its mission and what it does. And I'd love to hear about the pivot, because I think, as you rightly say, as you may have seen, we've done our own little pivot here at OneValley from GSV Labs days. And I think you made a really good point that all founders need to know how to pivot.
That's right. One of the diagrams that I love that has helped me in my personal pivots with my company, it's I think it's called Ikigai. I could have that pronunciation wrong. Ikigai. It's a Japanese construct. And if you think of 4 concentric circles, one is about finding your passion or tapping into your passion. One is about your talents, what gifts do you have to bring into the world. One is about what does the world need. And the 4th is what will people pay for? And they contend that if you can get to the center of those 4 circles, you will find your greatest fulfillment. And I feel very, very fortunate that I think I'm living my life at age 57 in that center. By the way, for those of you who might be a little older on the line, I didn't get started in entrepreneurship until after I was 50. So it can happen at any age. Don't say, you know, don't have self-limiting beliefs around age. But I think the problem with what I was doing as I left GSV Labs at the time to do this full time was we were doing things that I was passionate about, that I felt was using my talents that the world needed, but it wasn't easy to make money doing it. And so We were very fortunate. I gave us a talk once when a private equity group was at GSV Labs, CD&R. And right after I spoke, the person there said, we should work with you. And that was the start of working with corporate America on what we do. We started working with Visa, designing return ships. And I realized in a very brief time that we could make a whole lot more money from working with companies than selling, programs to women. We still do the women's programs. I still believe it's very important. But for my team of 6 who are doing this as a livelihood, we needed to figure out a way to make money. And so as an entrepreneur, and I know, Nikhil, you've been doing the same exercise, I'm sure, since you got there, where are the opportunities? And so that was our first pivot, was really going after the corporate market. We now serve 13 or so companies. The second pivot, though, was when George Floyd was killed last summer. I started doing my own soul searching on, I'm doing a lot to help women, but what am I doing to help women of color? What am I doing to help other underrepresented groups, API? I mean, you name it right now. And as I thought about the book we wrote and all the levers that we put forth to support women, they're really the exact same levers that will support anyone who's in a minority position, who has an underrepresented voice at a company. And so I went out and intentionally found a partner who's African American, who has been doing this kind of work for 15 years, servant leadership training. And so that was our next pivot, is we started going to companies and saying, we can do all these things for you, plus we can deliver inclusive leadership training and workshops and talk about unconscious bias. I would never have known I could do this a year ago. Today, I did one yesterday where we're doing these many times a week. I have learned so much from Dr. Alex White, my partner, who does this work. And she is pushing me every day to be better in this space. I think we are never experts when it comes to something as complex as diversity and inclusion. I think we can only vow to continue to be better and to learn and to be humble learners every day. And I know that's how she would consider herself as well. So that's the work we do now. I also went back a few years ago. I got my coaching training. So I do a lot of executive coaching because that was another thing that filled my tank. I thought, I really like helping women. I'd like a few tools in my toolkit so that I can do it more effectively. So I'm a lifelong learner. I have a growth mindset. I'm willing to put myself out there and fail and pick myself up and try something different. And hopefully I won't make that same mistake twice.
That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. I want to broaden the discussion a little bit. We know that globally less than 10% of all venture investment goes to women founders. So at the seed stage, shall we say, at the stage at which companies start, we see tremendous underrepresentation and support for women founders. And then when we look at the very top, we look at the Fortune 500, which is the large successful companies, we see that of the 500 top companies in the US, only 33 are led by women CEOs. So we see this discrimination both at the earliest stage as well as the sort of later and large stage companies as well. What's your sense and analysis of why we see these differences between both women as entrepreneurs on the one hand and then women as executives on the other?
Let me take the entrepreneur question first. So in reading recent articles, 98% of venture funding in the US is going to male-led teams, or 2% is going to all female-led teams. Yeah. 89% of VCs are men, and the vast majority of them are white men. So my analysis is there's two things going on. One is there's a whole lot of unconscious bias and conscious bias, let's be honest. There are men that won't invest in women. I've talked to them. And I think that they are missing a huge opportunity. I think women are proven to be successful entrepreneurs. And When I was at BCG, I like to tell the story. I worked on a feminine hygiene product with one of our clients. I was the only woman on the team developing feminine hygiene products. Imagine that. I was the focus group for all these men. In the last few years, there have been at least 8 very innovative products in the feminine hygiene space, all developed by women. There are some new products for women of color. How about the Band-Aids that just came out for the first time, in flesh tones that are not white? It's just incredible. So having these diverse perspectives in the entrepreneurial space can really drive innovation. So I think it's a huge business opportunity. I think the second thing besides bias is access. And women, being married for 33 years to a golfer, I am well aware of how much business happens on the golf course. I'm well aware, we have lots of clients in Texas, how much business happens over wings and beer, or shooting exotic animals. I hate to even say, but there are a lot of activities that women and people of color don't have access to. And I think that happens in the funding world as well. When it comes to the CEO issue, I'd really direct you to my book, because we have lots of things that are happening. I think the 2 that I would point out, one is it has to start at the leader level. The leader, like you, Nikhil, are a terrific leader. I've looked at your team, very diverse, and I've watched the way you lead, and it's very inclusive. Leaders have to model and message inclusive behavior. And I think if that doesn't happen, we've had clients that is not the case, and nothing happens. The needle does not move. The second thing we hear a lot, we do focus groups for companies, and we usually do them by affinity, because affinity meaning we just did one this morning with African-American branch managers at one of our clients. Yesterday, we did it with their Hispanic leaders. Last week, we did it with their women. We did it with their white men. We hear so many different perspectives on whether they have mentors. The one we heard today is, my career stalled because I didn't see anyone who looked like me. And that is why we need more representation at senior levels of organizations. We need them on boards. I fully applaud the California law requiring more diversity on boards. I think it, you can argue against sort of targets or quotas or mandates, but I'll tell you, they work. And I think they only work, by the way, if you don't lower the bar. But I think what it does is it forces people to look more broadly for talent, and talent is out there. Some of our clients that used to only recruit from the top 6 business schools are going to historically Black colleges and universities, and they're finding exceptional talent. So you sometimes have to look a little harder. One other thing that people are doing is referral bonuses for people who don't look like them. And we like to tell companies, don't think so much about it hiring cultural fits. Think about hiring cultural adds. Somebody who's going to break up your echo chamber and bring in fresh thinking and innovation. So as for why women aren't more, we are making progress, women CEOs. I think it's all-time high. I keep reading more and more all the time, but I just think they have lacked all those things I mentioned for many, many years.
Yeah, thank you for that perspective. We have a lot of questions coming in from the chat, as you might imagine, from the audience. And some of those are the same as questions that I was going to ask. And I think the most important ones, let me just combine them and say, really, what advice do you have for women entrepreneurs, women who have founded their companies, who are building their companies? And, related to that, how can they succeed in this still very male-dominated environment?
So you had prepped me with that. So I thought of, what are the 4 things I think successful entrepreneurs need? And this is not gender dependent, but I would say 1 is passion, a passion for your concept, for your product, for your service. I know that has absolutely been the key to my success. I know when I talk to people, they can feel the energy that I have for what I'm doing. And I think that's really critical. Second is commitment. Being an entrepreneur takes a tremendous amount of time and commitment. And so being willing to put in the effort. Third is being a leader. And today that is, I would put the adjective on there, being an empathetic leader. because leadership right now is all about being inclusive, and inclusion requires empathy. It requires the ability to create a psychologically safe space where people will show up and bring their fresh thinking and perspectives, where their voices are heard. It takes a leader who's looking at every Zoom square and making sure we've heard from Nikhil and Amy and Danielle. And then the fourth thing is the pivot piece. I'd say being able to pivot. And then you also had a question about what's one, mistake or one thing that could get in the way. I have a number of friends who are entrepreneurs, and one that I would bring up, because the women on this call are all in fundraising stage, is just be very thoughtful about where your money comes from and who's going to sit on your board. And I have seen that get in the way of more than several entrepreneurs, that they have someone on their board who is not aligned with their values, their mission, and their approach. And she's raised, millions and millions of dollars, and she's kind of saddled with this, the one I'm thinking of, with this board member who's really getting in the way. And so just be very careful about who's on your board. And then finally, have your own personal board of directors or mentors that you surround yourself with. One of the first things I did at Reboot was to go out and find advisors. And I found men, and I found women, and I found different ethnicities. And I really wanted a diverse set of advisors. And that was really critical, and still is, as I continue to pivot and get advice.
That's really good advice. We have another question from the audience. Founders experience highs and lows. What are your examples of lows, and how did you motivate yourself to fight through those and rebound from them?
That is such a great question. Well, my biggest low recently was when the pandemic struck, because when I started last year, I was so excited. I did my OKRs, my objectives and key results. We had plenty of clients. We were set for the year. Everything was looking really good. And then sometime in March, things just fell apart. People said, oh my gosh, we are just trying to stay in business. We are laying people off, we're furloughing people. We cannot be spending money on gender equality initiatives right now. And at the time, it was really specific to women. And for many months, we had very little business. And so I started doing pro bono work. I started doing free Zoom workshops and coffees with people. So I became a Zoom facilitator, which has served me well. And I started working with companies like Samsung, which we were just about to sign, and then that money dried up. And I said, you know what, this is give back time. I'm not traveling. I have time on my hands. I want to do good work. I want to help companies. Samsung, I'm going to just do pro bono work with you right now. And that was really smart, because I earned a lot of goodwill with them. They are, since then, they've been a great client for us. And the other thing is, I used many of those down moments that were, not very happy moments, to reflect and figure out, how can I pivot? And that was when I met Dr. White and started doing this new kind of work. So one of the classes I teach or workshops is on a growth mindset. And I really think that is, I probably should have put that on my my key success criteria, because to me, a growth mindset, and this is Carol Dweck's body of work at Stanford, a growth mindset is about stepping out of your comfort zone, trying new things, taking risks, taking calculated risks, failing, picking yourself up and doing better next time. It's about how you receive feedback. It's about how you solicit feedback. If, every workshop we've ever done for 7 years, we do a post survey. How was this? Would you recommend? How could we be better? I still do that this morning. I did it for my workshop, because a growth mindset is about continuous improvement, and it's about improving, not proving. So it's not proving how smart you are. It's about how can we just keep getting better.
Thank you, Dan. It's always a pleasure to spend time talking to you. I know that we could I could certainly be doing this for the rest of the afternoon, but we have 9 amazing young women founders who are waiting on the wings to present their ideas to us and to tell us about their companies and their projects. And so once again, thanks for joining us for this event. And now, Tara, it's back to you.
Thank you, Nikhil.
Thank you, Nikhil, and thank you, Diane, for that honest and insightful dialogue. Diane, thank you so much for joining us tonight and for all the work you've done and continue to do. Thank you both again. So we are going to get started with the pitch portion of our evening. To get started, I would like to introduce our judges for you all. So our judges this evening are, of course, Diane Flynn, founder and CEO of Reboot Excel, Danielle Lateef, founder of Badassery, Nadili Nunez, executive director of Ascender, and Juan Scarlett, managing director of OneValley Ventures. I want to thank you all for being here. I'm going to give you all a quick moment to introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about why you're passionate about entrepreneurship. Diane, perhaps since we just heard from you, let's have you kick us off. For those that are just joining, could you share a quick intro and tell us about why you're passionate about entrepreneurship?
Sure, I'll keep mine very brief. You've heard enough from me, and I want to hear from the other judges. But I just want to applaud anyone who is willing to step up and put themselves out there and bring something new into the world. I just can't wait to hear about all that you have to share tonight. This is my passion, as I mentioned, is helping women. So when the OneValley team called and asked if I would do this, I reflected on all the people who have said yes to me over the years, and there's no way I could turn this down. So thank you. And I hope that you all pay it forward in the future to all the wonderful people at OneValley and the sponsors who are making this happen.
Thank you so much, Diane. And how about Danielle? Would you like to go next? Tell us a bit about yourself and why you're passionate about entrepreneurship.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle Lateef, and I'm the founder of Badassery. We're the first public speaking marketplace for diverse voices. And in terms of why I'm passionate about entrepreneurship, I think very similar to what Diane was saying about growth mindset. It's just so challenging. And I feel like, we should probably shy away from something super, super challenging all the time. But it's really interesting because industries are always changing. We always have to adapt. We always have to get creative. So I really love just not knowing what's next. Of course, it can be a little bit stressful, but I think overall, it's really collaborative, it's really creative, and it just pushes you to your limits. So I love getting pushed to my limits and solving really important problems.
Thanks, Danielle. Nadili, how about you go next with your background and why you're passionate about entrepreneurship?
Hey everyone, I am tuning in from Pittsburgh. I run Ascender coming out of Pittsburgh. We are a community of entrepreneurs. I love helping entrepreneurs because it's the backbone of everything, right? Every city, every company was a startup at some point. And for me, I'm trying to build something. I help all kinds of entrepreneurs, but I particularly want to help level the playing field for women and entrepreneurs of color, because mainly white men are empowered because they had a head start. And so we need to really figure out how we can level out and be able to build and innovate together. So I love entrepreneurship because they can bring everyone, because a problem, many people can face the same problem. And if we can build a company around that, we can also bring a community around that too.
Oh, thank you so much, Nadili. Last but not least, Juan, could you share a little bit about yourself and why you're passionate about entrepreneurship?
Sure, thank you, and happy to be here. I'm Juan Scarlett. I lead OneValley Ventures, where we work with partners to develop and execute venture investment strategies across the OneValley ecosystem. One of our first efforts is the OneValley Fund, a seed stage fund focused on investing in standout digital transformation companies with dynamic founders, taking on high value problems into attractive markets. I've been in the venture capital industry for the past 14-ish years and broadly working in technology, investing in research for the past 20. And for me, I really just enjoy working with energetic founders to help create incredible new products and services that ideally impact our lives in a positive way, although that doesn't always happen that way. And I'm really excited to be here and very much looking forward to hearing the pitches from these amazing founders. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Juan. And thank you again to all of our judges that are joining tonight. I do not envy you. You have a very difficult task tonight. You're going to be judging our 9 amazing founders on their upcoming pitches, but there can only be one winner. Our pitching founders tonight will be Joyce, co-founder and head of partnerships at ClassHook; Ashni, founder and CEO of Taonga; Abby, founder and CEO of Playout Apparel; Nelda, co-founder and chief product officer; and Vincent, co-founder and CEO of Elysian; Danielle, founder and CEO of Syllable; Bo, founder and CEO of Amor Sui; Lauren, founder and CEO of The Natural Nipple; Anastasia, founder and CEO of Boza; and Song, founder and COO of CovaDX. A reminder about what's at stake tonight: our grand prize winner will be walking away with $2,000 cash, and the audience choice will win $500 in cash. As mentioned, all of our participants tonight will be given a female founder scholarship to Passport provided by our sponsors at Vonage. So quickly, let's go over the ways you, the audience, can take part in the action tonight. First, be sure to ask questions to our pitching startups in the chat. If we have time, we may get to them. Next, rate each startup after their pitch. Your votes determine the Audience Choice Award, and by rating, you will be entered in a raffle for the chance to win 1 free year of Passport for yourself. Finally, if you'd like to connect with any of our pitching startups, ask for an intro through the Meet the Startups tab at the top of the page. So with that, I would like to kick it off and welcome our first presenter, Joyce, co-founder and head of partnerships at ClassHook.
Hi everyone, my name is Joyce, co-founder of ClassHook, and I am so excited to share with you how we are improving student outcomes with TV and movies. This generation of students are digital natives, which means they prefer to learn via YouTube, prefer short form video, and are no longer interested in passive traditional learning experiences. But when we're unable to meet student learning preferences, that student engagement drops drastically. In 5th grade, engagement looks like 74%, by middle school about 45%, and finishing out high school is at 32%. Students become less engaged over time because their learning does not feel relevant. And as a classroom teacher for over 3 years, I experienced firsthand what true engagement looks like. Students are a lot more optimistic and curious about the world around them. They aspire to do more academically, and because they love coming to class and coming to school, they improve their overall classroom behavior. This affects teachers because teachers are the ones who want to deliver these exceptional educational experiences, but they typically have to sift through so much content to make sure it meets their criteria, some of which includes being accurate, memorable, and aligned to standards. Here's where ClassHook comes in. We help teachers find educational movie scenes with a curated content library of over 6,000 TV and movie clips that are age appropriate and aligned to standards. Teachers can go through and find granular searches of familiar, relatable content that piques student interest. Videos are also vetted by educators to make sure they are appropriate and accurate. Teachers can find a relevant video in just a few minutes when it typically takes an hour or 2. Here is just a preview of what teachers look for in their search experience. And ClassHook helps increase student engagement by 66%. Student engagement looks like students asking questions and students understanding granularities and intricacies across topics and subtopics. Educators love ClassHook. Whether we are used as a hook, as a reteach, or as a way to engage students, educators are our biggest fans. We have about 45,000 teachers across 15,000 schools using ClassHook, with about 3,000 monthly active users. 50% of our users come from word of mouth and referrals. We are in the market of digital instructional media, so thinking about K-12 and higher ed, that's about 16.4 billion. Just K-12 is 8.1 billion, and supplemental digital content is at 2.4. Our business model is a freemium SaaS model. So with the bottom up approach, thinking about converting free users to paying users, and then using our teachers as advocates to schools and districts. Where we're headed. We are looking to scale content, meaning using machine learning and AI to expand our library, and building partnerships with studios and independent content creators to also offer teachers more content. We also hope to tailor the student experience, so more personalization for students, as well as a guided practice. And we're always thinking about ways to save teachers time, so creating an assessment framework, collaboration tools, and reporting metrics. The team is made up of Alex, Steve, and myself. We've known each other for 11 years and worked on Classic for 6 years. Alex brings the technical experience, and I bring the education and marketing background. We're raising $1 million for engineering, automation, content, and marketing, and that provides about 18 months of runway and helps us increase the impact of Classic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joyce. Let's head over to the judges for questions. How about Danielle? Can I toss it over to you first?
Yeah, definitely. That was awesome, Joyce. My mom was also a teacher, and I saw her just preparing her lessons and grading and spending all that time. So this is really hitting home. I'm really curious about your sort of like distribution. Are you going direct to teachers, or are you going and building partnerships with schools?
Yeah, great question. So currently we're going through teachers first. We tried kind of going through schools, but they've kind of relayed back to us that they want that buy-in from teachers. So that's kind of where we start.
Gotcha. And you feel like the referrals and all of that will carry you through to that sort of like explosive growth?
I think that is one part of it, but I think it's kind of a mesh of a few things. So having teachers who are advocates, but also through the work of PDs and through partnerships and through being ever more present in the ed tech space, that kind of also helps maximize that user growth.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Diane, did you have a question as well?
I do. I have two quick ones. One is on pricing. I'm curious, do you have anyone paying currently, and how did you land on your pricing? And then the second is around usage rights. I know with that kind of content, there can be some IP issues.
Sure. So the first question about pricing, we are $15 a month, and how that's kind of typically worked is we allow teachers to have a trial period, and then once they enjoy Classic, we have a conversion rate about 55%. And then currently in terms, we're still a little bit early in our revenue generation, but the breakdown is about 1/3 coming from consumers and 2/3 coming from school and districts. So that's a little bit on pricing. And the next question was about rights, copyrights, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so with copyrights, first we go through YouTube Content ID. So we make sure that we are abiding by all of their policies, and whatever is being publicized, we are following. But secondly, we've spent a lot of time going through the legality of it all just to make sure we can use content. But to scale, we're really thinking about partnering up with studios and helping them recycle their content to put into our library.
And then do you pay them royalties or no?
Yeah, that's a great question. So currently we're not thinking about that route because that requires a lot of capital, but in other ways we are trying to think of creative strategies to get that arm of business to engage with us. So whether it looks like reusing their content or repurposing a lot of their old TV shows and movies, that's kind of the direction we're heading into.
And Nadili, Juan, any questions from you?
Yeah, is the reason you're using movies is because it would be something like Shrek, something that these kids would likely already know about, or is it more from you're able to visualize the learning?
Yeah, sure. So I think a lot of it is that relevancy piece, but also we are not limited to just TV shows and movies. We want to expand also to things that are created from PBS networks, so like maybe historical documentation. And the second piece is when it comes to learning, and especially when I was a teacher, kids really respond to visual aid. So that is primarily the reason we use TV shows and movies and characters and stories that they have known and loved.
Okay, great. Yeah, because just as a piece of advice in terms of who will, working with these studios, maybe it's studios that have independent films or something where they want to get their content out. Think about the independent films that come out at South by Southwest. Someone like who produces Shrek is like, I'm rolling in dough, so I don't really, I'm good.
Yeah, that's a great point. We are looking to expand our independent content creators. So to the folks that you're speaking of, the ones that are freelance or at film studios or independent content creators, we are also looking to bring them to our platform.
And then my last question is, you're showing video and that's a different way to engage, but are you able to fit as much content within a semester now that you're inputting video in there?
Interesting. That's an interesting question. We haven't quite gotten any research on that or collected data to support that, but it's a good question for me to note down.
Thank you so much to our judges, and thank you again, Joyce. We need to move on to our next company. So it's my pleasure to welcome Ashni, founder and CEO of Taonga. Please join me in welcoming her to our virtual stage.
Hi. Taonga is on a mission to let individuals take back control of their personal documents. My name's Ashni, and I'm a software engineer that's worked at Square, Microsoft, and Amazon. I'm also a multinational citizen from 4 countries, and I'm constantly sending documents back and forth between family, friends, and businesses. I generally use email and WhatsApp, but neither of these are really secure. Upon investigation, it turns out 87% of people are using the same tools and putting themselves at the same risk as well. The problem we're tackling is that there's no convenient way to store and share personal documents with a focus on privacy and security. In 2019, 41% of the population had shared a personal document online, and 76% said they would if it improved their online experience. There's an increasing need to securely store and share documents, but the tools we have today, like Google Drive and Dropbox, are not built for this. Introducing Taonga, a product that gives control of documents to the end user and stops the need for sending personal documents using insecure channels. Taonga is built with privacy, security, and consent by design with a focus on transparency. We're end-to-end encrypted and have no way to access, sell, or share any of your data. This also helps keep us compliant with privacy policies globally. Users can securely upload and share documents through the app, and businesses can securely access and process documents through our dashboard and API. Diving into this a little more, on the app side, so the B2C side, users can upload personal documents, receive reminders that a document is expiring, and have full control over document access. By this, they can quickly share documents to family, friends, and businesses, set time limits. For example, you can only see it for a week, track who's accessing a document, and revoke access at any point. We intend to do a subscription basis of $5 a month with 5 free documents to start off with. On the business side of things, we're offering a dashboard with an API. And this becomes a much more secure alternative to email. It also lets businesses have all their documents in a single place. The other huge advantage for businesses is this avoids the business having to store any PII, which saves them hundreds of thousands of dollars in costs. In fact, studies show that the average cost a business has spent to implement GDPR policies was $3 million. This would be a SaaS business model. We're still testing prices, but looking at a base fee of $20 per employee and $10 per client. So in 2019, 57% of the population are internet users, of which 41% had sent a scanned personal document online. Taking 10% of this and charging $60, the cost of our app for 1 year, brings us to an $11 billion market. This only focuses on the app, not the business opportunities yet. These numbers are from 2019, prior to COVID, and are expected to increase due to the accelerated digital transformation. Additionally, privacy policies are changing around the world and creating new security and compliance requirements as well. Our main competitors are password managers, storage solutions, and messaging apps. These are the tools our customers are currently using. However, they're all ad hoc systems with no way to track who has access to your documents. So we launched an early prototype at the end of 2020. We launched this to 35 beta testers and have collected their feedback to create the next version of the app. We have a waitlist with 400 people and 10 businesses that organically reached out to us and have asked us to accelerate our B2B timeline. Our short-term goal is to focus on the B2C side of things, specifically in the immigration space. We're launching an updated version of the app this Friday, and then focusing on growing it to more people down the line. In the medium term, we're then going to start focusing on the business, so building out dashboards and API options for them to use. And once we've validated that that solution works, we want to expand this, take that solution and expand it into multiple other markets. So thank you. I'm looking for introductions to folks in privacy and compliance and security, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you so much, Ashni. Let's dig into the judges' questions. Juan, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. Thanks so much, Ashley. That's very interesting. Very interesting pitch. I guess I'm curious. You listed off some of the competitors, obviously, many of whom are very deep-pocketed, and are also looking at different ways to protect and secure the documents of their users. I guess I'm just curious as to how you would try to differentiate from all of the competitors that you mentioned, and really effectively reach both the consumer and the prosumer, as all of those different solutions do as well.
Yeah, so the reason that I look at those three as my competitors is because what we've essentially done is taken pieces from each of them and bundled them together into a single product that offers this really specific suite of features to you. And so none of those products currently have that option. And they're also none of them are focused in the spaces that we are. And by that, I mean, none of them are focused on privacy and security for personal documents. So 1Password is actually the one that I fear the most. And that's because from a technical perspective, they have all this stuff that I dream of having us build in the future. And for them, it wouldn't be a massive change for them from a technical perspective, but it would require them to completely rethink the way that their app currently works or their product currently works. And that's also just on the consumer side. What's not happening right now is they're not actually providing that service to businesses on a scale where you're actually able to share documents, or in 1Password's case, passwords to businesses yet. So that's what we're kind of, that's part of the reason that I designed the app and have been focusing on the consumer side, is so that we're able to really build out a product that helps you as an individual and wants you to use this, and get your businesses or businesses you work with to use it as well.
Thank you. No, I think you're onto something very interesting. I think as consumers particularly are about to start getting a lot more interested in their privacy and certainly in how they send personal documents as well.
Yeah. And it's thank you. There's also a lot of conversation around digital identity documents as well. And so we're specifically not a digital ID solution. My plan is to integrate with those solutions once somebody else that's got much bigger pockets than I do. I'll let them build it and we'll integrate it straight into my platform that's already got the users.
I think we have time for one more question. Nadelia, I saw you unmute.
You really just answered the question I was going to ask. And it's like, are you trying to build something that's going to get bought or integrated or sucked into a larger company? And then the other part was too, from a technical perspective, if I have the app and I send, Tara, here's, my emergency contact and where all my birthmarks are, does she need the app to see it as well?
Yeah. So
and are you concerned that that's going to make it difficult for that customer acquisition?
Yeah, so with the current version of the app, we have it, because of all the end-to-end encryption policies we have in place, you are required to have the app in order to receive documents. However, that's just because it's significantly easier for us to build that out than to build out a place that lets me send an encrypted document to someone that doesn't have an account. In the future, especially as we start building out these dashboards like web dashboards, we're going to have to start building out the more open-ended option, which is I can send you a document, you get a link in an email, you maybe have to put some verification code into it, so you don't have to create an account, but you still need that verification code, and then you can access the document in the future. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashni. Before we head on to our next presenter, I just want to give a quick reminder to the audience to rate each startup at the bottom of the screen for your chance to win a free Passport membership as well. And you'll help us decide our Audience Choice Award. So you can just go to the bottom of the page, click on any company name after they present, and you can rate all 9 companies there. The scores will be tallied at the end of the event to determine a winner. So up next, we have Abby, founder and CEO of Play Out Apparel. Abby, welcome to the stage.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abby Sugar, and my company Play Out Apparel is an omnichannel athleisure and underwear brand. For queer people or anyone who just doesn't conform to gender stereotypes, shopping for clothing can be incredibly stressful and intimidating. Can you see yourself shop by style and not by gender? Playout offers clothing to help Gen Z shop their authentic selves while supporting their values with gender expression affirming apparel with limited edition designs and an inclusive shopping experience. We are gender, sexuality, race, size from extra small to 5X, age and ability inclusive in the designs, construction, and our brand marketing DNA. Gen Z commands $143 billion in buying power, and research shows that 56% of them shop outside of their assigned gender. Because we design athleisure and underwear, our market includes the US athleisure market that saw $105 billion in sales in 2020 and only growing, and the combined US undergarments market. I say combined because we are truly creating a new market. Gender equal fashion is the future of mainstream fashion. As members of the LGBTQ+ community, gender equal fashion is who we are. My team brings over 20 years of experience in e-commerce and fashion retail. Chief Design Officer E. Leifer is the former Director of Creative Production at Intermix, and COO John Lackner comes to us as former country CEO of H&M Mexico. You can currently shop Playout at playoutapparel.com and select independent boutiques. We are generating revenue, and all the models in this deck wear Playout. All our styles are specifically designed with gender equal construction to be flattering for any body type. We do not have men's or women's sections of our website, but every top is considered unisex, and our bottoms, leggings, and underwear are available with a pouch stitched front design or a flat front design. Co-founder E designs all of our styles and prints, and check it out. These start out as paintings that are then digitized and printed on the fabric for our apparel. This means we generate excitement by offering new prints frequently. Think of collecting exclusive sneaker drops, and these cannot be copied. We're an expert voice in our community, and this snapshot of our traction shows our orders increasing exponentially over time. With $32,000 in revenue last year, we have proven product market fit and are ready to grow. All our growth has been bootstrapped and organic, and I won 2 pitch competitions last year with $25,000 in total prize money. Our customer acquisition leverages brand customers and fans for user-generated content, and we work with influencers, whether they have 2,000 or 700,000 followers, who promote us in exchange for merchandise and work with us because they believe in our mission. More than just apparel, we are building a community, and this includes building a paid subscription members-only section of our website for access to exclusive content, discounts, free shipping, and drops. We also look to partner with LGBTQ+ centers and university bookstores to supply their gender equal apparel. In alignment with our values and mission, we are a social good enterprise. We have a 20% net profit donation promise to LGBTQ+ and BLM organizations. We also prioritize responsible manufacturing and source recycled fabrics, and we're made in Mexico at a female-owned factory that employs LGBTQ+ individuals. The gender equal apparel market is a new market, which means that competitors in the underwear and athleisure space range from legacy brands that reinforce or are limited to hypergendered styles to newer, smaller brands that do support Gen Z. We're currently raising $500,000 in a pre-seed fundraising round to propel our growth. And we invite you to participate in breaking gender norms and redefining the future of fashion with socially and environmentally conscious impact. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abby. Let's head on over to the judges for questions. Diane, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. Congratulations on your passion and creating a new space here. I guess my question is, with so many people in the apparel world and many large companies, how easy would it be for any of them to pivot into this space, and how would you defend yourself in that case?
Excellent question. Thank you so much. So on my competitor slide, what I didn't have time to include in this quick 4-minute pitch is the fact that maybe 2 years ago, Nike did a gender neutral marketing campaign, and this came across as incredibly just disingenuous. So there was a big backlash. Yes, I see Natalie shaking your head in agreement. Yeah. So there was a huge backlash on social media because they were marketing to this community that is underserved, but they didn't know what they were doing. And so everyone said, great, good job. Now I go to your website because you have gender neutral marketing and I have to choose men's or women's sections. You're not supporting me. It's not safe. You're still putting me in this box. And so one of our edges is we are part of this community and we know how to talk to our community, how to get them to shop from us. And that applies to allies as well, because everyone wants to feel affirmed and like they're safe and excited to be shopping from a brand.
Thanks, Abby. Danielle, do you have any questions for Abby?
Yeah, definitely. My background's in community, so I think this was really awesome. It's so clear that everything is really community driven and you're highlighting your customers. It was interesting that you mentioned sort of this like community as a product piece where I think you said you have a subscription. I'm curious about why you're paywalling the community versus using it almost like as fuel for the actual product.
Yeah, so it absolutely is fuel for the actual product. For a lot of apparel brands, especially D2C, and we focus on being omnichannel because we know the value of having partnerships and supplying wholesale. But besides the fact, with D2C, digital advertising has become a black hole. You just spend more and spend more money to acquire new customers all the time. And we are really looking to build this community as lifetime value. And we see the paid membership section as more of like an Amazon Prime. So you get extra perks, you get exclusive content, because there's certain content that maybe is edgier or talking about harder topics that, we've actually been shadow banned on Facebook because they might be showing super naked cisgendered female models. And we have actually had an ad denied that was just a trans person wearing a trans flag, like fully clothed, right? So we've come up against those issues. So we want to be able to build our larger community and tease that, and then have a safe space for people, because on that bigger community, there's also a lot of like trolls and a lot of community management that needs to happen as well. So the membership section definitely as a software revenue driver, subscription, recurring revenue for us, but free shipping for the customer, sort of like Amazon Prime, access to pre-orders, exclusive paintings and prints and that type of thing.
Really cool. Thank you.
Thanks. I think we have time for one more question. Nadelia,
Abby,
I saw you unmute.
Yeah, Abby, I think you're doing it all the right way. Particularly I recognized a couple of the influencers that you had on your screen. Really, just this is a rising trend that we're seeing, and but that's gonna take some time. And so I'm concerned is as you crunch the numbers, how are you gonna get to profitability? How are you going to sustain yourself? I think everything else, mission and goals, you're doing it right.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So how do you get to profitability? I think that maybe 2 years ago was too early in this market. One of our competitors is a brand called Tomboy X that is venture funded. They are profitable at this point. I believe they're doing really well. And, I think there's abundance here. They are androgynous styles, but they really serve assigned female at birth, and we truly are gender equal. And so they've proven the market for us, and we know that with investment, we know how to grow right now.
Thank you again so much, Abby, for answering all those questions, and thank you to the judges for all of your thoughtful questions. Now we're going to go ahead and head on to our next presenter, which is Nelda, co-founder and chief product officer, and Vincent, co-founder and CEO of Elysian. Please join me in welcoming them to the virtual stage.
First and foremost, I would like to thank all of you for allowing me to occupy space today. But first, I want to share a story with you about 2018. I got engaged, I got into graduate school, as did my partner. We bought our first home. We were starting our lives together. In September 2018, I lost my partner to Citigroup gun violence a block away from our new home, within 30 minutes of him landing in Chicago. I thought I was going to plan a wedding, but I never thought I'd be paying for the loss of my partner. No one wants to think about what happens when a loved one passes, but when it does, we need a plan so we can focus on caring for ourselves and those around us affected by the loss. We identified 3 core problems. 1 is most people don't know what to do when the loved one passes away. 2, there's not a one-stop shop that connects all end-of-life services. And 3, Most death care products and processes are not sustainable and can be bad for the environment. So knowing this, we asked ourselves, how might we make the process of dealing with the loss of a loved one easier while also being mindful of the environment?
And our solution is Elysian. Elysian helps you navigate end-of-life planning so you can focus on what matters most. We provide a marketplace for death care products and services, planning tools and educational content, and registry and community fundraising to help families during this difficult time. And there are some converging trends that make us confident in this direction. 88% of consumers will research end-of-life services online first. Cremation is on the rise, and cemeteries are reporting an increased demand for green burial practices. We plan on monetizing from our platform by getting a commission of the product and service sales from vendors. Later on, we'll provide consulting services to help customers with funeral and end-of-life planning. We'll also monetize through ads and sponsors.
So when we talk to our customers, we found that most don't know what to do when they're faced with death, and most just go to Google search to find the answers. So we know via our consumer research that they want easy to understand solutions and options when it comes to end of life. So we envision a mix of boomers and Generation X cohorts ages 45 to 68 in North America as the most viable audience to start. And we believe this for two reasons. One is age and life stage. They have the discretionary income, the fiscal future planning know-how, and proximity to aging friends and family. And two is behavior. They are comfortable supporting their lives through technology, they're fiscally conscious, and they're familiar with disaster. We're members of over 30 communities from Facebook groups, Reddit forums, and national grief orgs, with a potential target audience of over 300,000. This is a sensitive topic that needs to be treated with the utmost respect. So we anticipate getting our first 1,000 users through white glove handholding, a grassroots approach, so we can focus and shepherd them through the end of life journey and planning. So right now we have one vendor confirmed, and by the time we launch with at least 15 vendors, we'll be ready for consumers to explore greener end of life options.
So currently, the total global death care market is worth $102.4 billion. The US market makes up 27% of that number, which brings our serviceable available market to $27.6 billion. And the potential market for 14 states that permit green burial brings our serviceable obtainable market to $1.26 billion. Now, COVID has made death a forefront topic globally. There has been more than 500,000 deaths in the US alone and 2.21 million globally since the pandemic started. There is potential to do great good while also redefining the space. The traditional death care space is antiquated with room for innovation. Current startups in this space are providing different ways of products and services, and Elysian is one place for all of them, plus a registry and a focus on sustainability. I'm Nelda Packwing, and Vincent and I are master's students at University of Southern California. Prior to grad school, I worked as a senior UX UI designer and built digital products for millions of people. I also started a VR startup in 2018 and graduated from the Boost VC and NASDAQ Milestone Makers Accelerators in San Francisco and Silicon Valley.
And hi, I'm Vincent Perez, and I'm passionate about end of life, remembrance, and sustainability to honor my late partner, Shane Colombo. We help navigate end-of-life planning so you can focus on what matters most. So please support us to make greener end-of-life choices easy. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelda, and thank you, Vincent. And thank you, Vincent, for sharing your story. Let's head on over to the judges. Juan, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. Thank you both for that great pitch. Very sensitive topic, but I think you guys are on a very interesting solution that really helps people to talk about it. And actually, my question really is, how do you encourage consumers who use your platform to really start using the platform and thinking about end-of-life planning prior to an actual event? As I'm sure you know, most people in this situation end up planning or executing actually at the time of an end-of-life event as opposed to ahead of time. So how do you encourage people to start talking about this very sensitive subject at an earlier stage?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Thank you for that. So something that Vincent and I are part of are over 30 communities, both online and offline. And they're communities of people who are familiar with death, support groups, and also family members and friends who have lost a loved one. So what we discovered through our user research is a lot of people are very open to talking about this topic. And so we just want to provide a space that is welcoming and that's welcoming to them, and also providing a lot of educational content to help them to start thinking about what they should do when an event like this occurs. So something that we've actually created is an end-of-life planning guide that kind of gives a basic checklist of things to think about to plan for their own end-of-life journey or that of their families. So that's been one of the assets that we're providing to the community.
Thank you, Nelda. Thank you, Juan. Diane, any questions for our team here?
Yeah, thank you for sharing your story, Vincent. And I'm sorry about Shane. Shane, yeah, sorry about that's a tough loss. My question would be on your competition. And I've heard a few people floating similar kinds of ideas. So I'm curious who else is doing this and what have you learned?
Would you like to take this, Vincent?
Sure. So right now, there are a number of companies like Round Glass, Everloved that are in this space already. And right now, they're mainly focusing on these planning initiatives that go along with end of life. But there's not a one-stop shop that really does have these services. And like, for example, death doulas, not being able to connect with them. We're planning within our own platform to provide these professional services so people don't feel like they're going through grief and loss alone. That's like the hardest part, especially when I experienced my loss, is I felt like I had to do everything by myself, right? And there are resources that people are unaware of. So we really want to connect those individuals to one another. But the other part is the sustainability portion. There are over 300,000 tons of CO2 emissions that are emitted every year via cremation. And what we want to do is we want to press, the greener initiative so that people can honor their loved ones in the most beautiful light. How beautiful it is to honor someone through a tree or through a water burial versus, a traditional burial with a casket and a viewing in a staunchy old room. Like, why not celebrate it in a very beautiful way? And that's what we want to promote within our platform, is the alternatives to the traditional cases.
Thank you so much, Diane. Thank you, Vincent and Nelda and the rest of our judges. We are going to go ahead and move on to our next presenter now. It is my pleasure to welcome Danielle, founder and CEO of Syllable, to the stage.
Hello, I'm Danielle. I'm the founder of Syllable, and we are here to help language learners live the language. So, imagine spending a year socially isolated from music, art, sports, culture, travel. I know it's hard to picture. But now try to imagine doing this in a country where you barely speak the language. So one of our beta testers, Catalina, was studying her master's in New York during the pandemic, trying to learn English in a complete vacuum. So she was isolated from social contacts and being able to speak with native speakers. And these barriers, they really do create social disconnect, decrease job opportunities, affect mental health of language learners, as well as the high ticket price of existing learning programs. So we've created a web and mobile social media platform that's designed for language learning. Having moved back to Chile, Catalina can learn directly from native speakers in searchable bite-sized videos where she can translate, practice, receive feedback, and request new videos to understand social context. So here's how it works. Our English instructors create various videos and searchable topics from who's Morgan Freeman to the difference between the candle was lit and the party was lit. Our English learners then create challenge videos responses, interacting with both native speakers and other English language learners. They then receive personalized feedback based on grammar, pronunciation, as well as application in their videos. And we get it. The language learning is a crowded market space. That's why we researched user engagement on top social media apps and found that the stickiness of the average user is based on 1, pre-existing interests, 2, finding related videos, and 3, an interactive community. So unlike other learning platforms, we use interactive videos with captions like TikTok because it has the highest engagement in terms of hours per day, as well as providing a course structure like Rosetta Stone. As we expand as a social media platform, we can see up to 250 million English language users worldwide in the $19.5 billion industry. And for now, we're focused on the 1.1 million English learners in the US who are currently dissatisfied with their current programs. From reaching our 600 member milestone last year to gathering over 200 plus beta testers in 2 weeks, to securing our first city-sponsored contract, our platform is gaining traction as we prepare for our paid platform launch in June. Our organic go-to-market strategy incorporates a lot of the interactive community building through organic social media marketing leads, expanding our city contracts, as well as using community referral programs. Our international team of digital storytellers has over 45 years of language experience, speaks 8 languages, and has taught in 14 countries. As a Founder Institute alumni company, we have the resources and network to build a global brand. And with this $2,000 prize, our team will be able to expand our marketing content into several different languages, such as Mandarin, Arabic, and Spanish. So Spanish speakers like Catalina can become more fluent. We want to onboard more English instructors and do trademarking for our IP and protections. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Danielle, for your presentation. I'd like to pass it over to our other Danielle. Maybe she can kick it off.
Yeah, cool name, Danielle. That was awesome. I loved your energy. And it's just like so timely, I think, as people are so mobile and always traveling. So this is really cool. I'm really curious about your sourcing for the instructors and also for the content. You mentioned you have this course structure. Is that original content that you're creating in-house, or is it some sort of educational partnership?
Yeah, so we are creating in-house. And so it's really kind of cool in terms of the blend of our video content creators. They're all a mix of digital storytellers and language instructors. So almost all of our team is bilingual. And as well to the point of creating content, what we really do is we look at, the applied content that we need in the real world. So for me, my background is in firefighting. So I create emergency related content for English language learners. This is a lot of content that you don't really get in classrooms because most ESL teachers don't know what do you do in an emergency. So that's kind of where we're bridging the gap in terms of that content creation.
Really cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle and Danielle Allen. Thank you for your service as a firefighter as well. That's awesome. Nadili, let's pass it over to you next.
Yeah, Danielle, how did you come up with the $16 a month fee? And because I'm all this video creation, I'm just thinking dollars, time, I'm just seeing it all fall down. So how is $16 going to keep you sustainable?
So we did kind of a cost analysis. We looked at, realistically, a lot of the videos that we're creating are, in the length of just shorter than a TikTok video. So we're looking at like a minute long in terms of kind of creating very compact content, as well as we surveyed like literally the 600 members of our platform that we have kind of in our community and said, hey, what would you pay for this? And realistically, the average that we got was, $20. $20 a month to, be able to have not only this content, but this interaction with our instructors. So yeah, that's kind of how we came up with this price point for this amount of this creation, essentially.
And let me sneak another question there. Would it be a course format? And then I also want to know emergency, like firefighter. I want to add that course to my curriculum.
Yeah, so what we're doing right now is we're kind of launching in a 6-month format block. It's almost like you get 6 months of this interaction where we cover a set amount of topics from, English that revolves around business to how do I socialize and what does dating life in America look like. So we really go into kind of rabbit holes of topics within that time frame. So that's kind of how that looks in kind of these bundles right now.
Thanks, Danielle. I think we have time for one more question if Juan or Diane, either of you want to jump in.
Well, I had a similar concern as Natalie about the cost of producing the content. So I guess my question's very general. I think that the concept is really intriguing. What is your biggest challenge in launching and customer acquisition and scaling this?
Yeah, so I think that's one of the things that for us is looking at this content creation. I think the second thing that we're really basing our models off of is how do people interact in community. And so people actually want to create their own content. And so we're looking at English learners, posting their own videos and being like, hey, I struggled with pronunciation of this word. And that actually being useful to another English language learner. So that's one of the ways that we're kind of filling in these gaps with this amount of content. When you look at the interactiveness of a TikTok or of an Instagram, you're really looking at all these people who are taking their own time to create content just so they can have almost the social reward of socially connecting with one another. So looking at our brand, we see our content creators kind of as our brand figureheads, but a lot of this kind of heavy duty lifting is coming from the community interaction.
Thank you to our judges and thank you again to Danielle for joining us today. Next up, we have Bo, founder and CEO of Amor Sui. Please join me in welcoming her to the virtual stage.
Hi, my name is Bo Wangchakudi, founder and CEO of Amor Sui. As someone who was badly injured in a chemical spill accident because my lab coat did not protect me, I am building the future of PPE where safety is available to all in a simple, cost-effective, and sustainable way. Last year, over 18 million US healthcare workers put their life at risk by reusing disposable masks and gowns, even having to use garbage bags to protect themselves from a deadly disease. The root cause of this problem is that the US safety supply chain is not set up to be sustainable. We rely too much on disposable product with long manufacturing lead time and no local supplier. And there are hidden costs around environmental impact to producing and disposing of one-time use product. Disposable gowns shortage and plastic waste increase became so apparent last year that the FDA issued a directive urging the healthcare industry to migrate toward washable medical gowns. It sounds good in theory, but hospital and clinic currently do not have tools and resources necessary to meet this directive. Enter our customer like Angie, Marissa, and Janak, who are all struggling with this change in their own way. And there are many more people like them who are all waiting for a better solution. And this is where Amor Sui came in. We deliver zero waste washable PPE with measurable sustainability impact to clinic and hospital. Our easy to use, easy to implement solution automate the cleaning, lifecycle management, and recycling on sustainable PPE. Currently, we are the only company that offer a fully automated process with a sustainability focus. Our turnkey solution, developed alongside the feedback of our customer, can be optimized and integrated into any healthcare facility, big or small, with or without laundry facility, all without disrupting the workflow. Our solution can be integrated with any type of washable PPE. Today, we're focusing on healthcare, but the future is full of possibility. With other washable products in large sector like pharmaceutical, oil and gas, where better safety and sustainability are in demand. Of course, making safety available to all is not an easy task. And this is why we have put together a world-class team to make this happen. From expert in garment design production to a 30 years healthcare sales and marketing executive. Our business is really simple and straightforward. The more gowns we wash per week, the better our process becomes and the more money we make. For clinic, we provide gowns as a service. For hospital, we sell gowns outright and license our gowns tracking and management software. I'm excited to share that last week we launched our fully automated zero waste gown solution with Vios Fertility Institute. You can spot Armor Suite gown on physicians and nurses in their West Loop, Chicago location. We will also be kicking off another paid pilot in May at Atlantic Health System in New Jersey, starting with 1,000 gowns per week. Our goal is to manage 7,000 gowns per week, which will validate our business model and make us a 2 to 3 million ARR profitable startup by the end of 2021. We're already projecting to reach 2,000 gowns per week by the end of May. With signed contract in place with Vios and Atlantic Health for pilot expansion, and large fertility clinic chain and another hospital in the pipeline, our goals of managing 7,000 gowns per week in our system is well within reach. We're currently raising funds to accelerate our operational and sales playbook development, and now we are welcome any conversation related to investment opportunity. Join us in building the future of safety. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bo. Let's pass it over to our judges for their questions. Juan, why don't we kick it off with you?
Actually, I actually know Bo and I've talked to her before about this wonderful business. So I'll leave the other questions to our judges, but great job, Bo.
Awesome, thanks, Juan. Nadili, you want to go ahead and go first?
Yeah, I wish I knew more I knew about this industry so I can ask more questions, but I guess I'll cheat and say, you know, what is standing in your way right now?
So our business is depending on the strategically growing within geographical area. And we currently have aligned partnership in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania area to sign up 60+ clinic. And with that, we could sign up 60+ clinic and start really monitoring what I'm saying, our business model, which is managing more gowns, and then we become more efficient and we're making more money. And as we expanding our reach, we could sign up additional partner geographically to do that. Again, our fundraising is a part of writing and developing our operational and sales playbook to be able to take it from this area that we have partnership to other area in the US. I have to say though that I went last year to kick off our pilot in Chicago, and it was easier than we anticipate. So geographical expansion could be much easier than we anticipate.
Is there a reason why a hospital or someone that you're targeting would not buy your product or subscribe?
So a few things, you know, disposable product is in use because they were convenient, right? And what we try to answering to is that there's an alternative to disposable product, which are washable product that could be sourced and made in the US, more sustainable in terms of creating waste and actually more cost effective. We just need to prove our model that it's easy enough for them to switch from disposable to washable. And a lot of pilot program with large healthcare system like Atlantic Health that we kick off next month is going to be an essential point to prove that.
Danielle or Diane, do either of you have any questions?
I have a question about the sales cycle. Who's the buyer when who do you call on, and who has the purse strings for this?
Yeah, so we have two type of target, a hospital and clinic. For clinic, it's 1 to 2 clinic owner. These are small clinic where the owner is a decision maker. So we'll call on the clinic owner, which different type of clinic. In the dental clinic will be, you know, a dentist who is the owner of that practice. For hospital, they have multiple decision maker. We could reach to sustainability lead or COO, Chief Operational Officer, who overseeing initiative in terms of green program.
Just really quickly, how long is your sale? How long does it take you to close a sale?
Yeah, so we learned from our experience that hospital have a really long sales cycle. For us, it was 9 months experience. And that's why we working in parallel to signing up clinic and hospital, because our clinic sign up was only 1 to 2 months sales cycle. And we can see that we can get fast traction, even could go freemium in some cases. We signing up now.
Thank you to our judges, and thank you again, Bo, for joining us today. We have 3 more incredible founders lined up to round up the pitches for today. Don't forget to rate each startup at the bottom of the screen for your chance to win a free Passport membership and decide our audience choice award. Next up, we have Lauren, founder and CEO of The Natural Nipple. Lauren, welcome to the stage.
Hi, everyone. So how many of you love sleep? Well, now imagine it interrupted by a screaming baby, because this is nothing like a woman's breast. As the biotech breastfeeding experience for effortless health and bonding, the Natural Nipple is designed for seamless, stress-free breast and bottle feeding with the only nipple researched and designed to match real mom's shape, feel, and flow. So you can imagine just being able to enhance life development from the day that a baby is born, because breast milk is nature's first free life vaccine. My name's Lauren, and it was in my research and my PhD that I discovered this critical gap in industry and became determined to help families reach 6 months of breastfeeding that the World Health Organization recommends. This is actually critical for our B2B market. So here we actually discovered that a typical NICU is not reimbursed for $50 million every year related to how fast the milk is coming out of their bottles. It's important for babies because we learned we can save the lives of 1 million children every year under the age of 5, while also eliminating $300 billion in preventable medical costs annually in the US alone. We hit the triple bottom line and improve health of the environment as well as access to care. And the baby care and femtech industries are growing rapidly with a combined $157 billion total market opportunity by 2026. Our TAM is expected to grow to $68 billion in 5 years, and we are prepared to address the challenges our research shows this market is facing, with 125 million babies that need breast milk every year. The National Science Foundation awarded me $50,000 to go find out what the primary barrier to breastfeeding is, and so we learned that 90% of parents experience feeding trouble after introducing a standard bottle. What's more is 100% just wanted a nipple that was designed after their own breast, and 80% felt that they did not have support from community or from healthcare during the breastfeeding journey. 77% of parents, especially new ones, wanted confidence that they were feeding enough. And so the Natural Nipple is novel because it provides a physical, digital, and data solution to all the pain points that we uncovered. The bottle itself represents the maternal population and provides the closest match to mom's milk flow based on maternal lactation averages for the first time. In addition to a physical feeding solution, we're designing an app with lactation support that actually helps parents understand how to use direct breast versus bottle. And finally, we have immune biome testing with our patent pending service to inform parents how to feed best. This can be done well into childhood, where the first 3 years of life is actually crucial for establishing the signature microbiome. And this is a novel product tech service model that's actually missing in the infant care industry. So our initial go-to-market strategy, as you may be wondering, is direct to consumer as an e-commerce subscription model solution. And we keep it simple. You take a simple shape survey, and then you're sent an updated flow rate based on your baby's age to meet their growing feeding demand for the first year of breastfeeding. This is while our case study is actually being conducted in Tampa General Hospital to demonstrate that we provide those cost savings with our CPT codes in addition to primacy marketing. Our team consists of myself with the clinical and research background backed by extraordinary business mentorship at Tampa Bay Wave. Matt Herman, who manages the $88 billion Ascension Ventures Fund, is part of our advisory board built out by strategic subject matter experts. And he put particular interest in this product when he realized how much money we could save his NICUs. Last year, our IP was actually evaluated by Johnson & Johnson, and we won the Nursing Innovation Award for $50,000, as well as Florida Blue's Most Innovative Clinical Innovation Award in 2018. We're raising $500,000 to get through 18 months of runway and get to approximately $500,000 in revenue in this pre-seed round. In the last 2 months, parents have already paid $55 just to test our beta bottles and see if they reduce latching frustration. And I'm so excited to announce we have 100% reduction in latching frustration in our parents so far. We already have retail and investment requests. And here's just some feedback from our audience where it says it's making parenting easier, they're able to get more sleep, and they're not having trouble switching between breast and bottle. So I thank you so much to be able to create enough units to launch directly to consumer and have a sustained lifelong impact on the planet while improving the health of the next generation. Thank you for giving me 10 minutes of your time to talk about how a custom nipple could do so much.
Thank you so much, Lauren, for being here today. I want to pass it over to our judges. Danielle, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Lauren, congrats on all this success. That's incredible. I don't know much about motherhood or breastfeeding, but I mean, based on what you're saying, what you've done is absolutely amazing. So my question actually is about the pricing generally. Like you said, you're going to go direct to consumer. How much is an actual, just like a standard bottle? And is a $55 bottle considered accessible?
Great question. So we based our pricing model off of like value-based pricing feedback from the market. Our closest competitor's price is like $30 for one bottle of nipple with Mimi Juni. That being said, we have, by providing just a single latch match unit, have had an increased demand. We don't actually have enough prototypes to supply for the amount of moms requesting that. Our margins are much smaller for hospitals, but we have a distributor that actually works with Jolly Pop. They supply all the pacifiers and NICUs across the nation. So that's really where we're hoping to scale our volume and get that primacy marketing to be the product that parents go home with.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. Yeah. Diane, any questions over there?
Yeah, congrats on all the awards, and it sounds like you have a very impressive advisory group. One question would be, what would be a likely exit strategy? Would some of these Johnson & Johnson, would they be great? Would you be a good acquisition target for some of these? Is that where you see the future? Or is there proliferation that you could pursue?
Yeah, excellent question. So when I was speaking at Aspen Health, I had the pleasure of meeting the VP of J&J, and I was so naive about their business model because they didn't take equity. So I'm like, you know, what's your goal? Do you want me to develop more IP out of J Labs? And he was like, we just want to help you to like, hopefully you consider us first for an exit in 3 to 5 years. So I'm like, great, super aligned with that. That's my goal.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren. I think we have time for one more question. Juan or Nadili, do either of you have any questions for Lauren?
I'm just thinking if your profit margins for the hospitals are so small, why are you trying to scale up in that area? Or is it just now because it's at a small scale?
That's a really good question. So I think that having the primacy marketing and having any profit margin, what was it, like 66% if I pull my slides back up, is important because this is where, like from my research, I realized what was happening to preterm infants. So essentially like the milk is flying out, like you're fire hosing this baby, they can't swallow. So if you don't care about the baby, the hospital can't actually get reimbursed by insurance companies for the increased consult and length of stay cost. that comes from feeding related issues. So while it's not necessarily our best initial go-to-market strategy, a lot of parents actually stay with the brand that they go home from the hospital with. So being available on the e-commerce platform for them to continue buying is, I think, worth it in the marketing and solving a huge problem that I started out in my PhD to fix.
And on I'm sorry, Tara, but on a practical perspective, there was a 3D modeling of the nipple because every nipple is unique. From the moment, how does that work? Is that they get the modeling before they have the childbirth, or they're having the child and they're doing the modeling? How would that work, the turnaround?
I'm so glad you asked this question, because initially I was like, yeah, like we'll just 3D scan every mom's breast. No, like I walked into lactation classes with a handheld 3D scanner, sampled a larger amount, and then actually it turns out there's only 4 shapes that are necessary to create the molds for. So the latch map survey actually tells you which shape is closest to your own. More importantly is the flow rate that we've really like nailed down. Like if you go right now and pick out a competitor product, it's very vague. It's like slow, medium, fast. So you're like, how does my baby fit into this category? Versus we're data driven, we're actually matching lactation averages as closely as possible for 0 to 2, 3 to 6, etc. through the first year.
Thank you again, Lauren. One quick reminder for the audience, make sure that you're voting for every company for our Audience Choice Award. And one quick reminder to our judges to make sure you're submitting your scores on the Passport platform so we can tally those all up at the end of the evening. Up next, we have Anastasia, founder and CEO of Boza. I'd like to welcome you to the virtual stage.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anastasia Tarpe-Ellis, and I'm a co-founder and CEO of Boza. So I'm an experienced program and operations manager across various sectors, including venture capital. I've had experience building to accelerator programs as well for Grid 110 and Backstage Capital. My co-founder is E.J. Aruche, and he has several years as a product leader at startups as well as large corporations like CBS Interactive. And it was through our careers that we both realized that we experienced what we call a de facto project manager syndrome, or being in the de facto project manager role. And so what this means is that there's a person on teams that has to manually duplicate information between team members in their respective tools that they like to use. So for example, say you hired a marketing lead and they need to then communicate with their team, someone in Slack, someone in email, even via text message to get a hold of someone. Not including, all of the stand-up meetings that teams have. And so what's happening here is that this person that's the marketing lead, they're not actually spending time doing the work that they were hired to do. This results in that de facto project manager being a single point of failure in keeping information synced across the team. They become mentally overloaded, misutilized, and overall disengaged with the company. Not to mention right now in COVID, there's a study that came out that people are spending over 60% of their week doing what we call the work about work, right? You're not really getting anything done. And so our solution is to liberate and replace the de facto project manager with an omnipresent and scalable tech solution that mitigates the limitations of having the de facto project manager in this role. We essentially want to get everyone on the team back to work. How this works right now is through a Chrome extension that meets people in the tools that they're already using. So we detect tasks in the tools people are using across the web, and we create a to-do list for each person on the team automatically. This allows them, again, to actually get work done, and they don't have to spend time learning a new tool. So moving forward, our vision is to create highly optimized teams that spend less time managing the work and more time actually doing the work, like I mentioned. And on our broader roadmap for this vision, first, we want to take over that de facto project manager role and again, create that scalable solution. This allows Boza to optimize task completion by better and faster task aggregation and triaging actually how and who needs to do a task. We'll then be able to provide insights and data around optimizing workflows, team collaboration, and strategy. So part of what we're able to do with our go-to-market strategy, we're starting with the task management space in the $4.3 billion market But with our broader vision, we'll be able to move into the workplace management space. That's a $5.25 billion market by 2026. We'll be carving out and approaching this market with a SaaS strategy, and then also addressing small cross-functional teams who've often been left out of traditional productivity solutions. To date, at the end of 2020, we built an initial pilot project that we were able to use with 15 beta testers. We were able to gather those insights to inform us launching our next product in the next month. And we've also had over 200 people who signed up organically for our beta waitlist, which is really exciting. And yes, those are individuals, but they also represent people on teams. Currently, we're raising $500K to provide an 18-month runway and allow us to expand our technology. Thank you all for your time, and we'll encourage you to sign up on our waitlist. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anastasia. I'd like to pass it off to our judges for their questions. Juan, could you please start us off?
Sure. Thank you so much, Anastasia. That was a great pitch. And certainly you've hit on a pretty key problem that a lot of enterprise professional workplace users of different applications have. I'm curious, you mentioned that you're currently using the Chrome extension. Do you expect to directly integrate with apps that enterprise apps that employees are using today, including some of the collaboration apps that they're already using?
Yes, that's a great question. So what's really awesome about the Chrome extension or web extension technology in general is that a lot of things that people are able to access or use in their workflows live on the web. So we don't necessarily have to integrate with any tools or leverage APIs out of the gate, which gives us great runway. Also allows us to be able to see what user insights and usage is. So say, for example, we're able to leverage Notion, or people take notes in Notion. That's usually accessed via web. There are desktop apps, for example, but we don't need to build that out right away. But if there is a huge need for it over time, we can prioritize which integrations we actually need to do.
Thanks, Anastasia. Diane, do you have any questions for her?
I can always think of a question. Well, it sounds really intriguing. I like anything that, is a productivity boost. What type of marketing do you anticipate doing? Because again, this feels like a space that's hard to stand out in. So I'm curious what your strategy is.
Yeah, to date, what that's looked like is just organic growth at this point for growing that beta list. But moving forward, we want to do that community building approach. We already are having plans of like blogging that have been really helpful for us. Any way that we can share our authentic story is what is allowing people to gravitate to us. So for example, just doing things like this, or we're a part of a lot of founder communities, or both my co-founder and I are in On Deck. That has thousands of early stage companies, people are building right now who are, we have access to. And so that allows us to keep our marketing and customer acquisition costs a little low. But again, we're building alongside those other founders. So again, they can see who exactly we are and what we're all about in building our company.
Thank you. I think yeah,
Okay.
please.
First, I want to say this is the future. Time and time as I'm hearing about what the future is for entrepreneurship is automating and congregating things, because yes, we are wasting too much time in switching with different apps, and something like Zapier is increasing in popularity and actually surpassed If This Then That, which is a similar product. So if you're looking for marketing, look at how Zapier surpassed If This Then That, and that's a group that you'll probably want to reach out to. So when you had the 15 beta users and they gave you feedback on what they wanted to see or some improvements, what did you hear? Maybe an example or two.
Yeah, so one of them, so for our initial product, it was actually available only in Google Docs, and that allowed us to test out the premise that we had. It was always on our roadmap to, scale out to the broader web. But of course, that was the number one insight or like aha moment from the beta testers. They could already extrapolate to say, even if I'm not in Google Docs, all the time, I can see like once this is available across all of Chrome, they can then see like, oh yes, I can pull things in from an email, Notion, what have you, et cetera. So I think that general excitement was there initially when we were talking to those users. We also learned really quickly that yes, we wanted to have a team function down the road, but that moved up on our roadmap. So we were able to target some of those early testers or those de facto project managers on the team, right? But once they were able to see that we alleviated their individual pain point, they were like, everyone on my team needs this. And because we are targeting smaller teams, we also got insight from them that they could just go ahead and swipe the credit card and buy it for everyone. And there's not really any barrier there, again, because our team was so small. So those are really great learnings that allowed us to kind of reprioritize our product roadmap.
Thank you, Anastasia, and thank you to our judges. One quick reminder for the audience, this is the last chance to vote for the audience winner and last chance for your chance to be entered to win a free passport membership. And so last but not least, please join me in welcoming Song, founder and COO of COVA-DX, to the virtual stage.
Hi, I'm Song Kim, one of the co-founders of COVA-DX, and we're on a mission to transform the diagnosis and treatment of sickle cell disease through computer vision. So our story begins with my co-founder Yao and his clinical practice in Ghana. He treated time and again young children whose parents brought them in screaming and writhing in pain. And while he suspected that they had sickle cell disease, given the prevalence and just the symptoms, he couldn't know for sure because of the lack of diagnostics. And so he did the best that he could to alleviate their pain in the moment and sent them off, not knowing whether they would live or die, because if it was sickle cell disease, chances were they wouldn't make it past their 5th birthday. So sickle cell disease is a genetic disorder that makes the red blood cells take the shape of a sickle and clump together and get stuck in blood vessels. And these cause vaso-occlusive crises, which causes excruciating pain and organ damage, joint damage, and even heart attack and stroke. And sickle cell disease affects 30 million people all around the world. And every year, 200,000 children die because of the lack of diagnostics. And that's because there are simple but really critical interventions that are needed when children are born with sickle cell disease. But diagnostics in low resource settings are often too expensive and too difficult, and it couldn't be done at a wide scale until now. So our team came together. We saw an enormous opportunity to alleviate pain and suffering by bringing our expertise together. So Yao, who is a medical doctor and a PhD student in biomedical engineering at Berkeley, myself with a JD and an MBA with experience increasing access to legal services for marginalized immigrants, and Tim, who is a computer science PhD at Yale and has a wealth of experience in machine learning. We've bolstered our team with key advisors from Duke and Yale universities, as well as in the biopharma industry. And our solution is an affordable and accurate point-of-care diagnostic and monitoring tool that uses computer vision. And what we want to do is to completely transform the current standard, which requires fancy labs and expensive equipment and trained technicians. And we want to make diagnosis available at the point of care for an affordable, about $2 per test, and really importantly, be the only solution that can also monitor the health of red blood cells in real time. And that's important because even in places like the United States with some of the best healthcare systems in the world, people living with sickle cell have a 33-year shorter life expectancy than the average American. And that's because of the catastrophic effects of sickling crises on bodies. And what our device will allow folks to do is to empower patients and their doctors to have important information about the health of their red blood cells to predict and prevent sickling crises from happening in the first place. So here's how our device works. You take a small sample of blood, put it into our cartridge. The cartridge is popped into the device. The device images the red blood cells into these beautiful 3D images. Those images are run through our AI models, and that provides a diagnostic classification. And so far, we've trained our AI models with really promising preliminary data, and we've built our prototype. And we've established clinical partnerships with the University of Cape Coast in Ghana and the University of Connecticut, and we'll continue to improve our deep learning models until we raise our seed round and bring our prototype to product. We'll be initially launching in Ghana because it's where we have inroads and relationships so that we can launch quickly. We'll be selling our devices at cost and the single-use cartridges on a minimum use subscription basis. And 2 years post-pilot, while we're gathering that data so that we can get through the really rigorous kind of regulatory process here in the United States, we'll be actively saving lives and projected to have about $7 million in revenue before we even go through, finish going through the regulatory process here in the United States. The red blood cell disease testing market is projected to grow to $13.7 billion by 2026. And given the really exciting platform potential of our device to be used across red blood cell diseases, we know that we can tap into a significant chunk of that market. We are alleviating suffering and virtually eradicating childhood mortality for a disease that already affects the most underserved among us on a global scale, just one drop of blood at a time. And we'd love for you to join us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Song, for your presentation and all the work that you're doing. I would like to pass it over to Danielle to kick us off for our judging Q&A.
Sure, great job, Song. That was so cool to learn about. I'm curious about some of your biggest blockers, and you had mentioned regulations. Like, what is the timeline like going to market, just sort of with like these legalities and the regulations?
Yeah, that's a really great question and one of our biggest challenges. So in the US, we would be considered a Class 2 device for the FDA, and that can take anywhere between 6 months to 3 years, and it depends on whether we'll be classified as whether we'll be able to kind of go through the 510K pre-approval process because we're close enough to something that's already on the market, or whether we'll have to go through the de novo route, and that will take kind of years, and working directly with the FDA and asking them what exactly they want to see from us. And so we know that we're going to need lots and lots of data to build our device to the kind of sensitivity and specificity that will allow us to go through that process. And so that's one of the reasons that we are launching initially in sub-Saharan Africa. So initially Ghana, and then Nigeria and the Congo. And in Ghana, so just speaking specifically about Ghana, it will take us about 3 to 6 months after we go through the pilots. And we have consultants on the ground right now already working with the hospitals that we'll be working with. And they have direct relationships to the health ministry. And so it will be a lot quicker and simpler than the process here.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Song. Diane, do you have any questions for Song?
Yeah, and I'm likewise not terribly familiar with sickle cell, so it was very interesting. Is the occurrence of that more prominent in certain populations, either geographic or ethnic or anything? And does that suggest markets that might be good opportunities for you?
Absolutely. Great question. So sickle cell disease is actually, it's a genetic disorder, and it was a gene mutation that evolved actually in response to malaria. So malaria is the biggest single killer of humankind of all time. And every year, more than half of the world's population is at risk for malaria. So this gene mutation that happened in countries where malaria is quite prevalent. So think mostly like sub-Saharan Africa, but also, in the tropics in Southeast Asia and other places where malaria is quite prevalent. It's almost like human superpower that developed, but sickle cell disease, unfortunately, over time became sort of ignored, while other diseases, including malaria, gets a lot of attention, but sickle cell sort of kind of got pushed to the side. And Diane, you asked a very pointed question about the communities and the populations that it affects. So sickle cell affects 30 million people all around the world. The largest countries with populations of sickle cell are Nigeria, the Congo, and India. In the United States, it affects about 100,000 people, and most are Black Americans, but it is also prevalent in other communities as well.
Thank you, Song. I think we have time for one final question. Nadelia or Juan, if you want to take it away.
I always have a question. And maybe I don't know enough about this, but in the last 4 years, I've particularly at the University of Pittsburgh, they have an incredible medical research innovation center, and I hear about these devices that can read blood or other things. And so have you considered to fast track your kind of go-to-market getting out there, is seeing what other labs are already building or have built this device, and can it be amended to what you're doing?
Yeah, really fantastic question. And so we have actually thought about different ways that whether we can kind of like retrofit the microscopes that are already out there and just build the software, because our secret sauce is really going to be the software. But the reason that that we decided to build our own device is just cost and accessibility. So we have an exclusive patent option with a lab out of Duke University for the microscope that will be going into our device. And we specifically chose this device, which is it's a really high-tech quantitative phase imaging microscope, is that it can be used in low resource settings. So it doesn't need to be in some fancy lab setup. And it can be produced at a low cost, even though it has these like really beautiful images that are able to come out of it. And so the reason we decided ultimately to build our own product is for accessibility reasons, because the microscopes and the products and the devices that are already out there are way too expensive.
Thank you so much, Song, and thank you so much to our judges. That concludes the pitch portion of our evening. We've now heard from each of our founders, and now the judges have their work cut out for them. Thank you to all of our founders again for joining us today. I know I speak for everyone at OneValley when I say that we are all thoroughly impressed and really look forward to seeing what the future holds for you all. We're going to take a few moments to tally the scores, and we'll be right back.
Communication used to be pretty straightforward. Phone, call, phone. Not anymore. Now, business communication is voice, SMS, chat, chatbots, CRM, real-time, on-the-go, mobile, multi-channel, social media, video, blah, blah. Okay, you get it. It's a lot. That's why your business needs a flexible cloud communications platform. Like, extremely flexible. One with, say, an entire suite of cloud-based capabilities, unified communications, contact centers, and communications APIs. So, basically us. Not to toot our own horn, but we help developers and businesses help their customers and employees all the time. Sometimes with just a couple of lines of code. Take Mitch here. He's on a beautiful mountain, but he wants some shoes. Why? Doesn't matter. What shoes? Who cares? But we connect him anyway with his colleague Sarah, so she can collaborate with him and help find the perfect pair. They can share shoe spreadsheets, chat about shoes, and have shoe-related video calls. All thanks to Vonage's Unified Communications Solution. It's kind of a mouthful, but as long as it helps Mitch get the perfect pair, he doesn't really care what it's called. And then there's Jess. When she's not out mountaineering, skiing, or riding her motorcycle, we help call center reps like her make grumpy grumps like Frank happy. Because with fully integrated CRM, Jess has all the interaction data she needs to make the conversation more personal and productive. That way Frank's call to Jess can be his only call. And then there's Tom, or as his friends call him, Big T. Big T doesn't know it, and nor does he care, but the app that helps him find a car and call his driver was built by developers using our API. He also doesn't care that the developers of his banking app use our API to connect him to a customer service rep. And when Big T's stressed about his cheeseburger intake, he really couldn't care less that the app he uses to have a video consultation with his doctor was built by a developer using our API. So, whether you're a mom and pop or a multinational, we can help you scale seamlessly and securely. And no matter what comes up, at least communication-wise, you'll always be just one call away from getting back on your way. Vonage, the world's most flexible cloud communications platform. For business. Ever.
Okay, everyone, we have our winners. Thank you for waiting patiently for us while we tallied all the votes. I know that you're all waiting with bated breath So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and announce the winner of tonight's audience participation prize in annual passport membership goes to Tanisha Ash-Shakur, founder of The Voices of Color. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Tanisha. We really appreciate you taking the time to tune in and to vote for all of the winners. We will be reaching out shortly regarding your prize. And as a reminder to the audience, if you do not have a passport account, those watching tonight can use the code 25female to get 25% off an annual passport membership. And for the eligible founders in the audience, remember to apply for our Female Founder Scholarship at the link in the chat. All right, so with that, can I please have all of the participating founders please go ahead and turn on your video. Thank you. Next up, I'm going to announce the People's Choice Award as voted for by our awesome audience. The winner of our $500 cash prize goes to Kova DX. Song, would you like to say a few words?
Oh my gosh, I am blown away. Thank you all so much. Thank you for everyone who was here. Thank you to OneValley, all the amazing judges and all the entrepreneurs, and really inspired by everyone's commitment to sort of uplifting voices of founders that haven't been really uplifted before. And so thank you so much. I'm really grateful for each and every one of you.
Thank you so much, Song. And now the moment we've all been waiting for, the grand prize winner of our $2,000 cash prize is the natural nipple. Lauren, would you like to say a few words?
Oh my God. Well, thank you guys so much for this opportunity. I'm really touched. I will just say, like, the pandemic has probably been really hard on all of our founders that pitched tonight. And pushing through that and actually getting to beta testing, I just hope to encourage you if you haven't made it there yet, because we just got that in like the last 2 months. And as soon as I started getting that feedback trickling in from parents that it's giving them their freedom and their life back, and they can nourish their baby, but also regain their sense of autonomy, I just became so encouraged. And now all that was needed was really capital. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate this more than you know.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Thanks for joining. Congratulations again to Tanisha and to Kova DX and the Natural Nipple. And thank you again to all of our partners who made tonight possible, the SoGal Foundation and Vonage, and thank you to our speaker, Diane, and the rest of our judging panel, Danielle, Nadili, Juan, thank you all so much. And thank you again to our wonderful presenters. All of you are doing incredible work, and we really can't wait to see what's next for you all. Before we end, I want to share a little bit about an upcoming April event. We were so overwhelmed by the amazing applications we received for tonight's event that we actually decided to split it into 2. So we'll be hosting a second Female Founders Pitch event on April 14th. We'll be hearing from some pretty incredible seed stage companies. You will not want to miss it. If you or someone you know are interested in attending the event, you can find some more information at the link that's being dropped in the chat. I want to take another moment and thank everyone for joining us today, everyone in the audience, and to remind you that you can connect with any of the startups featured today via the Meet the Startups tab at the top of the page. On behalf of myself and OneValley, thank you all so much for joining us, and thank you again to all of our founders. We can't wait to have you back again soon. Please take care, everyone. Good night.